Good afternoon, everybody. John Aravosis here. Hey, guys. Welcome to today's Ukraine update. We have another gloriously stormy day in DC. Lots of thunder. You know what that means. My dog has been in a panic for a little over an hour. So I spent the last hour researching the show on the floor of the bathroom with my dog. Because it's what we do. Hey, Mike Webb, I am good. Working on the voice still, but it's all right. Lots of tea, lots of tea. Exactly. I've got my homemade Ukraine shirt on that I made for the protests. I do like this. I wish I could get one exactly like this. It's hard when you print them at the print shops. You can't really get it up to the collar is the problem. So I ironed this because I love having the fake little tassels. It makes me happy. Exactly. Cue the Russians. But yeah, so things are okay other than thunderstorms and the dog. Oh, man. I'm trying to think. I don't know what else. Anyway, hot tea is making everything better. Anyway, guys, yeah, so as always, I'm going to probably just jump right in. If people come late, that's okay. Actually, we've got on TikTok, this has been really nice lately. We've had sort of the big swarm right away, which has been nice. So, all right, I'm going to jump right in, guys, just to remind folks, I've got TikTok on my iPad. I've got the rest of them on my laptop. So if you're kind of noticing me looking back and forth, it's not my erratic nature. It is because I've got two different cameras going. So excuse me for that, but one good microphone to rule them all and in the darkness bind them. So anyway, folks, yeah, let's just jump right in. Just to remind folks, I did set up an online store finally. It's at aravosis.com, which is my last name. We're going to be putting more stuff there. Almost had another new shirt today, but Syndicate and I had a fight. No, kidding. We didn't have a fight, but we had an aesthetic disagreement about one of the shirts, about the color of it. So I'm talking to Mom and my sister later, who are my great aesthetic consultants. So anyway, but go to my store, aravosis.com. You'll find lots of cool Ukrainian stuff, and I'm giving 50% of the proceeds over to help Ukraine. So keep that in mind. Make sure you follow me. And finally, for questions and answers, remember how the show works. I do about 20 minutes of the news. Today isn't going to be very long. And then we get into Q&A on TikTok. You'll find the Q&A button in my profile because TikTok removed it during the lives. Kind of annoying. That's what they did. So go to my profile. You'll find the Q&A for questions there on YouTube, etc. Obviously, use the comment box. Super chat questions are always welcome because they're a nice contribution. And finally, you TikTokers, always happy for you guys to put something stupid on my head. Mike Webb likes to put the hat on my head. But I really do, actually. I appreciate that stuff. And all the better if you find, I mean, I don't mean, you don't, there you go. Thanks, Netlin. You don't have to spend more money, but if you find new stuff, I'm always intrigued by the new stuff that TikTok finds for the gifts. So don't spend more necessarily, but if you find the new stuff, I'm curious what they've got. Thank you, Sam. All right, guys, let me dive right in. So the Amnesty International controversy is growing. It's very interesting. So Amnesty came out with a new report about Ukraine. Thank you, Poppy. And in it, Amnesty criticized Ukraine for allegedly putting civilians at risk by, in various ways, running their military operations in civilian areas. For example, they complained, I believe, about the military sleeping in a school one night and, these kind of things. And, for me, I was giving Amnesty the benefit of the doubt. I gave you guys, we talked about this the other day. I am someone who believes that an organization like Amnesty International needs to not worry about politics and they should call it as they see it, right? Whoever's doing war crimes, call them out. So I was willing to give Amnesty the benefit of the doubt. The Ukrainians were very upset, and I understand why. But I said, you know what? I want to hear the arguments. And the arguments are starting to come out, and it's not looking great for Amnesty. Thank you, Inspired Woman. What it seemed, let me tell you first some of the updates, what happened here. So the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs weighed in today, called the report grossly misguided. The most important development was the head of Amnesty in Ukraine, the director of Amnesty Ukraine, Oksana Pokalchuk, resigned today after 7 years working there. She quit. And she quit over the report, and she let it be known that she got the draft report. And she read it, and she let Amnesty know that the report was basically biased, that it wasn't objective. It wasn't looking at, I mean, I'm sure she'd have to get into details of what it was, but that she felt like it was a one-sided report, and Amnesty overruled her and published the report anyway. Now, interesting question, because obviously they can't call her biased. She's Amnesty, right? So when the head of your Ukraine office, who's the person who should know this stuff better than the people in New York, tells you this report is wrong, I'm telling you, I live here, and Amnesty says, nope, we're doing it anyway. So they've been getting a lot of crap online. But again, what's happening now, yesterday was simply, thanks, Netlin. Yesterday was more people criticizing Amnesty as, how could you do this? Ukraine's the good guys. I would say it was people who don't understand what Amnesty is, that they criticize good guys when good guys criticize America, right? When we do bad things, we should be criticized. Guantanamo Bay, or, not good, whatever it was. Oh, no, I'm thinking of, that horrible, whatchamacallit in Iraq we did with the prison, Abu Ghraib, right? That we should be criticized for it. Well, today, like I said, the criticism is getting into the substance. This Italian writer, I read through his, I speak Italian. I read through his tweets before the show. And of course I didn't write down his name. But he has been a longtime observer of Amnesty. And he went through this long Twitter thread, basically explaining he's living and working in Italy. The Amnesty folk contacted him for input on the report. And he's just, bottom line, his explanation was, of course, they're in the city. Where do you think the fighting is? He goes, they're fighting in a city. Where the hell do you expect the troops to go afterwards? You think there's just a military barracks nearby? He said, because, for example, he said one night, I think he even slept with the troops in a school. And he said, the school was the only place available. Where the hell else were they supposed to go? And the final point I'll say, and then we'll kind of go on, but is that, there's this implication in the report, even though the report admitted that Putin was, blowing up civilians anyway, that actually none of the civilian areas that Putin blew up were areas that the Ukrainians military had been operating in, right? Thank you, Marcy. In other words, Putin can't claim, oh yeah, we hit civilians because they were hiding in the civilian areas. None of the areas Putin hit, the civilian areas, were areas where the Ukrainian military was operating inside any kind of civilian organization, right? Thank you, Crusher. It's a mess. It's gotten worse for Amnesty. I think it's going to get worse. And as I said, what's gotten interesting, just to follow this as we go on, well, actually, I will answer this question right now. The homework challenge says you talk a lot without responding to comments. That's because had you arrived on time, you would have heard that the first 20 minutes of the show is me briefing you on the latest news today. And then we go for about an hour talking about your questions. So that's how it works. Yes. Crazy people trying to join me don't get to join me either. So that's why I'm talking, and that's why your questions aren't being answered, because we'd never even get through the news if I had to scroll through every question. So don't worry, about 15 minutes, the floor will be yours. So anyway, follow the Amnesty story. I think it's going to get bigger. Clearly, it got a lot bigger today. The other sort of big thing just to keep an eye on, clearly Russia is worried. There are even more reports now about Russia moving their troops out of eastern Ukraine. Remember, Russia has been trying to really take over this area. Russia previously had gotten Luhansk, which is the province here, almost 100%. They now are trying to get 100% of Donetsk, which is the province here. And they had 50%. I don't know if they've got 60 now or whatever, but they're having a very hard time in this province because the Ukrainians are dug in deep. This province is a hell of a lot different than this province in terms of Russia. It makes it a lot harder, right? Well, now what's happening is the Russians have the big fights going on around here. They're moving their troops and their equipment to here, Zaporizhia, and to here, Kherson. These are areas that Russia occupies, just to remind folks where Russia is occupying, okay? Kind of north of Kharkiv, it drops down here, it kind of comes more or less, by the way, this is all Russia. So when I do this, I mean, everything here is Russia, okay? So the line comes like this, south of Zaporizhia, south of Nikopol. Then it comes north of the river, kind of goes like this, includes Kherson, north of the river. Oops, sorry, there you go, north of the river. And then down. And then all of this is owned by Russia, not owned, occupied by Russia. This is occupied by Russia, okay? So what's happening is Russia's big goal, the big goal after the other big goals that failed, taking Kyiv, taking Kharkiv, was to take this region in the east. They're now being forced to move men and equipment here to Zaporizhia and here to Kherson because they are afraid that there's going to be a massive Ukrainian counteroffensive, and they're afraid that they don't have sufficient troops there. So the first big thing is just that Ukraine is forcing Russia to reset its goals and to reset its choices. And that's not something you want militarily. You don't want to be on the defensive in the sense of you want to set the agenda. You don't want the other guy to. Second of all, with Russia now moving troops out of the east, where it still was trying to take the region called Donetsk, there is a question as to whether the Ukrainians can fight a two-front war. Meaning, Russia's coming down to, and again, you could even think of this as one big front from Zaporizhia all the way down through Kherson, okay? The Russians are coming down to fight the Ukrainians here. Can the Ukrainians find the men and the willpower to keep fighting up here while the Russians are moving their equipment? If they can, then the Russians are in a real bad spot because the Russians have to figure out how many men do they really move here, or do they still have to keep a lot of men up here just in case? And the thing is, the Russians don't really have the manpower right now to fight really hard up here and to fight really hard down here. They don't have it. So this will be the question. I mean, this will be the question, but it's what was interesting to me when I was preparing for today was getting sort of, 5 miles in the air looking down. That's sort of that's one of the interesting stories of the day, is how Russia now is having to change its goals because Ukraine's forcing it to, and whether, once again, Ukraine outsmarting Russia, whether Ukraine could pull a rabbit out of a hat. I mean, basically, we still have to see whether Ukraine has got the, getting my little controller here, whether Ukraine is going to even do the counteroffensive. There was some thought that Ukraine was going to be pushing back, or claimed to be pushing back in Kherson as kind of a bluff, because they wanted to make the Russians move all of their troops out of the east, and then Ukraine would attack in the east. So it's very interesting. I want to say excited, but I find this stuff fascinating. Face news. This is face news. Face news. Somebody wrote face news. That's aching for a t-shirt too. I got to tell you, face news. That's face news. So what else we got here? This was kind of an intro. Okay, today is like our intelligence day, meaning I mean CIA intelligence, not like smarty intelligence, meaning looking at little bits of data and trying to learn lessons from little bits of data. This was another interesting thing. So Alexei Arestovich, who is a former, not talking to you, my Alexa thought I was talking to her, but I was not. Oh, because I said Alexei. I was trying to figure out why she went off. Oh, that was funny. Okay, Alexei Arestovich. Okay, she's not talking now. Who's a former Ukrainian intelligence officer and is now one of the military bloggers. Somebody who's been writing a lot of stuff publicly. His impressions of the war. Somebody people are listening to. They think knows what he's talking about. And he says that he saw something the other day he has not seen since the war began. 8 to 10 Ukrainian planes flying together in the air. In other words, it hasn't been safe before for 8 to 10 planes to fly together and for not a single plane to get shot down. He says that he's talked to experts who tell him that either this means that Russian air defenses are no longer working in the area, or that they're extremely limited. But either way, it's another sign of things not being very, very good for Russia in an area that is going to start to heat up even more. Last little point I'll make about Kherson. this is the same area where the collaborators have been basically killing Russians and killing Ukrainians who have been traitors working for the government, right? Because the Russians invaded, the Russians occupy now. It's like Nazi Germany occupying Paris, right? They want to keep the town running, but they need locals to help them. And who's going to help them? Who's going to do work for them, etc. And the Ukrainians in this region, especially, the citizens keep blowing up the Russians and the Ukrainians who are helping them. I mean, car bombs, the whole deal. It's been IEDs as well. Amazing sort of what they've organized secretly there. Bellingcat, which is a very interesting organization, and I can never figure out how to describe them. They've done, I'm going to say, like the work on investigating the Wagner Group. I'm just going to call them Wagner Group. I never know if we're supposed to call them the Wagner Group or because they are Russian, or the Wagner Group. Let's call them the Wagner Group. Bellingcat really did some of the seminal stuff on that, to the point where the oligarch who's Putin's friend, I think he calls himself, or they call him Putin's chef because he's such a good friend of Putin. He is suing Bellingcat because they claimed that, of course, he's tied to Wagner because he funds it, even though he claims he doesn't, and blah, blah, blah. Well, Bellingcat found and interviewed, listen to this, they interviewed the soldier, I'll say Russian soldier, I don't know his ethnicity, but he was working for the Russians. Thank you, me, 95. They found the Russian soldier who, on the video, had castrated that Ukrainian soldier. There was a video last week which I refused to watch because everybody else did, and everybody who saw it told me do not watch it. Yeah, thank you. Okay, good. You mods are good today. I'm occasionally looking at the jerks, and like literally I was about to get that guy, and you guys were like, zap. I like you. Thank you, mod, for doing that. You're right. I'm not even, the video. I thought you meant the comments. It's terrible. Don't watch it. Yeah, the video is horrible. It's a live Ukrainian prisoner of war, and he is awake and tied up, and the Russian soldier, whatever, working for Russia, castrates him with a knife. Apparently the knife he's using is bad. So like it's a knife that isn't sharp. So you can imagine that business. And afterwards, there's a second video where he takes a gun, puts it to the soldier's head, and kills him. Bellingcat found who they, again, legally, they've got to be careful. They found the man they believe to be the guy who did it. And he actually spoke with them on either the phone or Skype or something, but he actually spoke with them, which I can't even believe this guy was an idiot enough to speak with people. He told them, and this was great, he told them something like, he's not guilty because the FSB, which is the Russia's CIA, kind of, it's one of the follow-on agencies to the KGB. So kind of, let's call them the KGB for lack of a better word. The FSB, basically Russia's KGB, told him that the video was a fake, right? Mind you, telling him like, you're innocent because the Russians told you that the video of you committing a crime wasn't real. I mean, like, first of all, wouldn't your first thing to say be, I didn't do it? You wouldn't really say, oh, that video was fake. You'd say, no, I didn't even do it, and the video was a fake. Well, any case, the Russians are claiming the video was, well, the Russians told him the video was a fake. And I don't know if it was Bellingcat or somebody else I read on Twitter today, on Twitter, who said, if the FSB, if Russia's intelligence services determined that the video of a Russian soldier castrating a Ukrainian prisoner of war and then executing him, awake, mind you, he was awake the whole time, the video was a fake, they would be all over it about fake news and how you can't believe any of the war crimes coming from Ukraine because they're all fake, right? They're sitting on it. They're not talking about it. So anyway, I just thought it was, and I also thought the guy's an absolute moron to be speaking to Bellingcat. I mean, like, dude, shut the F up. I mean, seriously. The U.S. Has promised another $1 billion with a B dollars of weapons to Ukraine. This comes on the heels of the $500 million with an M package, a dollar package that we talked about the other day. The $1 billion package will include munitions, in other words, ammunition for the HIMARS rocket system, missiles for the, you guys have to tell me, how do you pronounce it as NASAMS? Do you just call them NASAMS? I wasn't sure sort of what the proper pronunciation is, but they're the surface to air missiles that I believe are they coordinate, they talk to each other, right? The decentralized, all communicating with each other. NASAMS, exactly. Yep. We are going to be providing them more of the missiles for that system, and up to 50 armored medical transports. And I double checked, because this sounds very similar to the other one. This comes in addition to the $500 million package that also includes additional ammunition for the HIMARS. So very good news. Bad news, the governor in Luhansk. So Luhansk is the oblast or region or province. I still haven't found a good word for it. For Americans, some people here said county. The problem is there's too many counties in this country. It would be akin to America in terms of just conceptually, it would be a state, right? But I realize in terms of the law, it may not work the same in Ukraine. But anyway, kind of a state or a region, a province. So Luhansk is there's the town of Luhansk, and it's this province here, okay? This is the province that Russia already was able to take about a month ago, and they control, 98% of it, whatever. The governor there says that Russian militants have been forcibly conscripting teachers to join the Russian military, okay? Or the collaborator military, military put together by the collaborators, by the traitors. According to the governor, the Russian proxies are calling teachers in from the summer break to issue them forced draft notices. Thank you, Al. I just saw that. Forced draft notices. The governor said that in Bryanka, Russian-controlled militants forcibly drafted around 300 men straight from the streets, bus stops, and public transport. The same situation is happening in Kadivka. They've done this before. We've talked about it previously. I don't quite understand how this works because, if it were me, you don't want to give me a gun. If you're trying to draft me into the bad guys' army, you don't want to give me a gun because I'm gonna use that gun, but not the way you think I'm gonna use that gun. Thank you, Natalia. You're not gonna like it, but my guess is they're threatening family back home. They could very easily tell them, we know who you are, we know where you live, and if you do anything wrong, we're going to go and kill your family. I don't know, but I'd be curious to get a military expert who knows in depth about this topic that could say, does it even work when you forcibly conscript people like this? Who are at least adults. It's not like you're forcibly conscripting a 10-year-old. Like in Africa or something, they're not the child soldiers. These are at least they're 17, 18, 19. They could even be older. They must know in their head, hey, give me a gun. Sure. I'll take the gun, Boris. Anyway, just looking here to see what you guys are saying. Oh, that's interesting. Some John Hoover is saying, who I know and trust, Crux News, which I don't know what that is, John, so I don't know if they're credible, but John is saying some outfit called Crux News is reporting that North Korea is sending 100,000 troops to Russia. I'd be curious what that even means. To Ukraine to fight for Russia, to help Russia in other areas, such, for example, things are getting heated again between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Is it to fill the gaps or something? I don't know. Well, somebody do a little Googling and pull up the story. We can always, we can talk about it during the Q&A in a couple minutes. Thank you, Inspired Woman. What do we got? Oh, this was interesting too. This is just, again, tidbit of information, but very interesting. The developer of Putin's hypersonic missile, remember, thank you, Netlin, Remember the one that Putin was so proud about a month ago and 2 months ago, and all those crazy people who go on the nightly Russian TV shows. They have their talk shows at night, and those lunatics that go on the talk shows and are like, we're going to nuke Paris, and then we're going to nuke, Ireland, and then Berlin, and they kept kind of like, every city they were going to nuke. These guys were ecstatic about the new hypersonic missile and how they were going to kill us all. And again, I guess it's time for me to give my nuclear submarine lecture. Very short. I'll keep it short. But the reason why I say this is kind of BS is it will certainly help Russia in a war with the West if we have one, if they get a supersonic missile. But the idea that they're going to win because they're going to use the supersonic missile to send nuclear weapons at us is not going to work, because we in the West, America, the Brits, and the French have nuclear submarines. And those nuclear submarines have many of them have nuclear weapons on them. And they're the kind of nuclear weapons that shoot up in the air, go way up into the stratosphere, or I shouldn't use that term, but way high up beyond planes, and then come down and go kaboom. And there's enough of them that can destroy Russia. And they've got enough on their submarines that can destroy us. And the final point about submarines to keep in mind is it is next to impossible for most of these submarines. I mean, Russia's apparently got a really big one that you guys were telling me, the experts, is pretty easy to hear, because they were so proud to make it really big that they made it really noisy because it's too big. But generally speaking, it is next to impossible to detect a nuclear submarine. And therefore, Russia could try to blow up America and Europe and everything it wants with its hypersonic weapons. It wouldn't touch our subs, and our subs would retaliate and destroy Russia. They know that, we know that, and it is why I believe, at least, assuming Putin isn't nuts, and I don't think he's nuts, it is very unlikely that we will get into a nuclear war with Russia, because Russia and we both know we would all die anyway. So what's the point of it? Like, what's the point? But I mean, literally, what's the point? I don't mean morally, ethically. I mean, militarily, that doesn't help. I want to win the war. Putin wants to win the war. Putin wants to be the next czar. He wants to be remembered as Peter the Great, he said the other day. Well, he invoked Peter the Great, comparing himself to him. Peter. I'm calling Putin Peter. Putin wants to leave Russia bigger and strong. He wants to make Russia great again, because he thinks after the Soviet Union fell, Russia became this two-bit power not respected by the world, right? So he doesn't want to start a war that gets 90% of Russia's citizenry killed, because that's going to leave a really bad legacy. He wants the legacy of growth and prosperity. Peter Griffin the Great. That's very funny. Boy, if that weren't a copyright problem, that would make a nice t-shirt too. But that would be a major copyright issue, or trademark issue, excuse me. I love it though, Peter Griffin the Great. Oh my God. All right, what else we got here? Boom. It's funny, I didn't have that much news today, but we've been like talking, which I enjoy the talking. It just slows it down, but that's okay, because that's what the show's about. Especially the guy who complained that we weren't having enough interaction. So now we're having interaction, folks. All right, let me read a little more. Oh yeah, Turkey caved on the natural gas stuff. Turkey announced, I should say the Russians announced proudly that Turkey discussed delivering, not discussed, he agreed to it. Yeah, he agreed to partially pay for natural gas, the Turks did, in rubles. Now, the thing is, this is what Russia has been trying to do since the war started. They've been trying to get the Western countries to pay for natural gas, which by contract has to be paid for in euros or dollars, perhaps. They've been trying to get them to pay in rubles. Why? Because Putin is artificially sustaining his currency, pumping it up to keep the currency from collapsing because of all the sanctions. And one of the arguments you hear from people, especially Russian apologists, thank you, Standalone. One of the things you hear from Russian apologists is the sanctions aren't working. Look at how well the ruble's doing, right? So they intentionally used it. It was a plan. So what they do is, if Turkey normally buys natural gas with euros, say, and Turkey now says, okay, Putin asked me to, I'll do it. I'll buy natural gas with rubles instead. What does that mean? Let's say Turkey buys I don't know, $100 million worth of gas a month. I don't know, but pick a number, right? Well, Turkey now has to buy 100 million rubles to pay for the gas. They've got to take their euros that they've got. I think, does Turkey have the euro? I don't even know. Because Turkey isn't really part of the EU, though, so they probably don't have euros. They still have it's not a dinar, is it? What do they call it in Turkey? They've got their own currency that they normally would convert to euros or convert to dollars, okay? Now they're going to convert them to rubles instead. That is the Turkish lira? Okay, the lira. Now the Turks are going to buy rubles instead. Well, what happens when people are buying more rubles than normal? Increased demand increases the price. I mean, in very simple economics here, but right, increased demands, increased price. So what Russia's trying to do is bolster the price of the ruble by making everybody in Europe pay in rubles so that it keeps demand for rubles high, much higher than normal, and therefore the price stays higher than normal. This was originally, at least, the underlying reason for why Russia said it was cutting off gas to some of the European countries, because it said, well, if you're not going to pay us in rubles, we're just not going to do it. And it's like, well, that's not really the way the contract works, but what do you do? Any case, that's what's up with them. So yeah, they're going to pay some of it in rubles, the total caving, backstabbing Turks. You know, the thing is, he's just Erdogan. It's Joe Manchin, it's Orban. I mean, it's a little bit of everybody in this man, you know, where he wants to be, he wants to be and Kirsten Sinema too. Now, not to get too much into American politics for you guys, but Sinema is the worst example because she basically is this senator who just says no, a Democratic senator who says no for no reason. Well, she seems to be saying no because the lobbyists have bought her. But even that doesn't quite make sense because the Democrats are so pissed at her that there's no way she's going to be able to lobby Democrats after she leaves office because the Democrats hate her and the Republicans can't stand her because she's still a Democrat. And I think that's who Erdogan wants to be. He just, like Putin, he likes to just gum things up to keep reminding you he matters. So he's going to break the sanctions and do this a little bit in order to remind all of us that Erdogan matters. You know, don't screw with Erdogan. Thank you, great CFI. Sorry, my ongoing breathing issues. The Ukrainian infrastructure minister, Alexander Kubrakov, said that with the help of international guarantors, Ukraine expects to export 3 million tons of agricultural products from the ports of Odessa, Chornomorsk, and Pivdeny. That's my guess of how to say it, or Pivden. I'm going to go Pivdeny. That's my guess. 13 cargo ships are now waiting to depart from Ukrainian ports with farm products, which is amazing. So very good. And what happened here? Oh, yeah. The Ukrainian State Nuclear Energy Company said that on August 5th, the Russian troops, which that would be today. Oh, that's today. Okay. On August 5th, today, Russian troops shelled the area near the industrial site of the nuclear power plant in the Zaporizhia region. We usually call it just the Zaporizhia nuclear plant, but it's, I believe, maybe named after is it Zaporizhia nuclear plant? I've always wondered if it's not called the Enerhodar plant, like that's the town it's in, just to get wonky for a second here. But let's call it Zaporizhia because it's easier to pronounce. In any case, the Russians shelled the area near there, hitting a high voltage power line. They said it was yet another provocation by Russia. 2 additional news stories, not Ukraine, but as I said, occasionally, occasionally I'm going to bring up other news and just bring it to you guys. What I actually might do, somebody had suggested it was a good idea. I may start doing, 1 day a week for other news. For example, if Donald Trump enters the race for the presidency, maybe I do 1 day a week about presidential news or something like that. You know what I mean? So just because I don't necessarily want to mix it too much, because some of you only want Ukraine and I don't want to be doing other news. And then you go, where's Ukraine? But let me tell you these 2 stories really quick. U.S. economy, because this also matters for you around the world. Employers, the new numbers came out this morning. Employers added 528,000 jobs in July, which was far more than expected, like way, way more. Everybody kind of blew their minds at the number, suggesting that a recession is not yet upon us. That doesn't mean a recession can't happen, right? But it's why a lot of folks have been saying, and the Biden administration as well, frankly, but why a lot of folks are saying, inflation's really bad, and there were 2 quarters of negative growth, but it wasn't much. It wasn't much negative growth. And you're seeing the job market still go like gangbusters. And so far, inflation, because there's a lot of purchasing going on, that does not mean recession, but these numbers certainly don't mean recession. Finally, there's a new Medicare bill. Let me mention this. I did a video explaining it in depth for the Americans, because this one actually matters for the Americans a lot. Thank you, Lamb Chop, for the hat. For you guys, especially if you're a senior or going to be a senior anytime soon. But basically, a new Medicare bill that Joe Manchin has signed on to, who's the conservative Democrat who stopped a lot of Biden's legislation last year. The bill is going to do a number of things, but the 2 most important things is it is going to permit Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Now, so you guys in Europe are going to laugh at this, because probably Canada too. In America, we've got a system of health insurance, a federalized system of health insurance for seniors at age 65 called Social Security. Okay. And so when you hear Social Security here, it means the health insurance for senior citizens, over people age 65 and over. It works similar to I would say, from what I know of it, the French national system, in that it covers a lot of stuff, but not everything. And if you want to get more coverage, you buy supplemental private insurance beyond Medicare. And just like in France, I know in France, you can buy this private insurance supplemental to cover even more. It works a similar way. By law, Medicare, that has 64 million people, it is buying subscriptions for and everything else. Medicare is not allowed to negotiate drug prices with big pharmaceutical companies. Medicare is required to take whatever price the pharmaceuticals give them. And especially being a government body, they've got a big market. I mean, 64 million people. Jesus Christ. Is this the size of France? Is France up to 80 million? I forget. I mean, you're talking the size of a good-sized European country here in Medicare, okay? And by law, they're forbidden to negotiate prices for years. Democrats and Republicans, Democrats wanted to change the law, but having said that, let me rephrase this. The leadership of the Democratic Party wanted to change the law, but they couldn't get enough Democrats or Republicans supporting it, because the big pharmaceutical companies had basically bought off members of Congress in that convoluted way that money enters politics in America in a legal way. So this will allow negotiations for 10 drugs to start with, and then it will continue from there. Now, what the big pharmaceutical companies are claiming is, oh gosh, this is going to break us. We can't make enough money. We're just going to stop making drugs. And, blah, 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 blah. And, I will leave you with this thought. And a lot of Americans are familiar with I would say you guys watching this with me are probably familiar with the concept, because the fact that you're watching this means you follow news. And you guys in Europe at least have heard generally. Prescription drug prices in America are outrageous. Before Obamacare became law, the healthcare plan that Obama passed, I was self-employed like today. I have to buy my insurance on the market. There's no big company I work for. And I bought the best insurance I could get. That insurance would cover $1,200 of drugs a year. And that was it. No more. No mas. And then the rest came out of my pocket. Well, I have asthma. My asthma drugs, at its peak, I was paying $550 a month for my asthma drugs. Within 3 months, I hit my limit for the year, and my insurance was no longer paying for prescriptions for the rest of the year. And my asthma drugs are $6,000 a year. So I would go to France and visit friends, and I would buy my asthma medicine, and I would buy a year of asthma medicine. It would cost me, I'm trying to remember. I mean, I remember the individual prices. The total price was not much. It was certainly, maybe it came to $1,000. One year it came to $800. But my Advair, for example, which I'm using again now, Advair, I would pay 38, 40 euros, which right now is about same in dollars, $38, $40. At Costco, where you get it cheap, I would pay $250 to $350 for my Advair, depending the strength, and you would pay $40 in France. And the reason it's that cheap in France isn't because the French government subsidizes it. Oh, no. It's because the French government negotiates the prices. And they make the pharmaceutical prices give them better prices, or they don't get to work in France. But the government doesn't subsidize it at all. And the government, get this, that $40, this is the best part. The $40 for Advair that I pay is because I don't have insurance when I'm in France, right? The French people don't pay $40. They pay almost nothing because their insurance picks up most of it. Somebody told me their insurance, they probably pay $2 basically after their insurance. So this is why this area had to be addressed, because I will say this, Americans are picking up the prices. How do I want to say this? We're picking up the lag for Europe. And it's not Europe's fault, because God bless Europe. Europe got the lower price. I talked to a big drug company exec at one point, and the person admitted to me privately that, yes, we raised prices in America to make up for the money we're losing in Europe. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And it's been known for decades. And again, if the French, and not just French, the Canadians, the Canada, it's in France, it's really stark. I mean, really stark. Some of my drugs were 10 and 20 times cheaper in France. It was crazy. And they're made in France, by the way, the same drug, they're not made in India. They're made by the same, Roche Pharmaceutical, I forget, AstraZeneca, the same drug company. It's just their French factory versus their American factory. Canada's great. Canada, I found the prices are usually like 1/3, something like that, the US. So it's still very good. Or sometimes they're 2/3 the US price, which is better. France is crazy. Mexico's crazy too. I mean, good prices. In any case, I just wanted to raise this because it's incredibly frustrating to me. And I'm glad the other thing we're doing, and Europeans, hold on to your seats, because you're gonna have a heart attack when I tell you this. Under Medicare, right, our wonderful federal system to help seniors, and face it, a lot of seniors are low-income people, right? They're not working, they don't have big retirements. Under Medicare today, you are required to pay. Now, you have insurance, but the insurance doesn't cover everything for prescriptions. People normally have it is normal to have several $1,000s in bills every year for pharmaceuticals, for example, that aren't covered. Well, Medicare says that after you spend $7,000 in 1 year on prescription drugs, then they will only make you pay 5% of additional prices for the year. Okay? What this law is going to do is it's going to change that to $2,000. So it's going to say once you've paid out of your own pocket $2,000 for drugs, you don't have to pay for the rest of the year. They're free for the rest of the year, all the drugs you need. And again, to Europe, it's going to sound insane probably that we're still saying 2,000 is a good price, but that's how it is. That's how my insurance works. I'm not paying for the rest of the year for my medical bills because I paid $3,000 out of pocket already in addition to my premiums. And after I pay $3,000 in 1 year, I don't have to pay for the rest of the year. And then it starts again. Our system is, we talked about this yesterday, fire coming out of my head. It's unbelievable. Anyway, that's it for the news. I didn't mean to get so long into the medical stuff, but I think it's an interesting topic, and it's an important topic. And especially being an American, when you travel abroad, you see, I've told you guys before, I was in Canada when I was a kid. I was 21. No, I was 25. I was not a kid. 25. Got a job working in the U.S. Senate, and friends were going to Canada. So I said, I've got going to trip to Canada. Can I start a month later? Sure. I go with them to Canada. I get really sick while we're camping. I mean, we're in the boundary waters north of Minnesota. I got really sick. I mean, really sick, like, very bad, and losing weight. I couldn't, and I finally stopped eating. I mean, I was so sick, I stopped eating. And my friends at that point were like, okay, this is really bad. We need to, I kept asking them, I was like, can we please go back? So they were like, all right, we got to take him back. We go back into some little town. I couldn't tell you where in Canada. Go to a pharmacy and just ask them, do you know what, how does this, because in America, good luck finding a doctor. Where are you going to, you'd have to go to the emergency room. You can't just go to a doctor's office that you don't know, right? So, and good luck getting an appointment. Well, Canada, the pharmacist goes, oh, Dr. So-and-so, he works across the street. So I go across the street, knock on Dr. So-and-so's door. I'm so sorry, Papa, I'm American, I'm visiting. Could you possibly fit me in? Come on in. We're literally coming into, and I'm like, can you fit me in? Brings me into his office, checks me out. Bottom line, he just thinks I caught something like a bad cold or flu, but that was having horrific. I mean, it was bad what it was doing, just horrific. And so he just prescribed some Tylenol with codeine and said, no, you just need something to relax you and just don't go camping, go to a hotel. So on the way out, I turned to him and I said, how do I pay you? And he looked at me and he goes, don't worry about it. And I was like, what do you mean, don't worry about it? Who are you people? What did you do with the greedy Americans? It was amazing. Don't worry about it. It was the most beautiful. And some of the Canadians actually had told me that the explanation they said was he would have had to submit it to the local province. And since I wasn't a citizen, it wasn't even clear how to submit a bill, that it was just easier for him just to do it for free, which was ridiculously nice of this guy. And knowing me, I probably offered to give him money anyway, because my dad brought me up that way. I'm sure I said, take something, and he wouldn't do it. It was lovely. It was really lovely. Anyway, so was a Russian warship hit? I did not see that. Was a Russian, I can't even speak today. You know what it is? I put a little bit of matcha in my tea, and I swear to God, I'm getting a buzz off the matcha. Is that stuff have a ton of caffeine? Because it's definitely got me caffeinated, which is good for you, but not good for me. Was a ship actually sunk? Yeah. A video? Let's take a look here. Hold on. Let me get my glasses and... Well, I didn't put a ton. I put a teaspoon in 2 cups, but it definitely has given me a jolt, which I don't mind, but I do mind if it's, what am I looking for here? Russian ship. I do mind if it's going to keep me awake later. Russian cruiser Moskva comes up first. That was kind of funny. Oh, yeah. Damn. Oh, here you go. Okay. From Ukrainska Pravda, which is a Ukrainian paper, but I haven't found the Ukrainian papers to really lie. In the morning of the 5th of August, a partly burnt ship belonging to the Black Sea Fleet, which is the Russian fleet in the Black Sea in that area, entered a bay and occupied Sevastopol. According to Radio Svoboda reporter in Crimea, belonging to the Black Sea Fleet, its starboard side was burned in the stern area. A Green Army rocket launcher was also noticed on its stern. With the assistance of tugboats, it docked. Okay, interesting, because a defense analyst who I thought I did follow him. I'm going to follow him now. Who I've seen, H.I. Sutton, who other people like, he tweeted about it. Hang on. Let's see here. He was... Now I can't find his tweet. Oh, here we go. Videos of another important naval action off Crimea today. He wrote this yesterday. Possible Ukraine hit a Russian ship in north of Crimea. The Russian patrol ship near Sevastopol in second images. Unclear what is going on. Awaiting further clarity. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've got to wait but he's got video. That's interesting. Yeah, there's video and everything. So it looks like good catch, you guys. Wow. Very interesting. One was spotted limping into port with a burned stern. That's exactly, Kelly. That's the story I found. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. 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 Sorry, people are weighing in about the, thank you, Al, for suggesting that. According to preliminary information, says Orchestral Hunter, this is a Project 22160 patrol ship of the Vasily Bykov type. Look at you with all your information. Thank you, Able Catch, for that. I didn't see about any other submarine. I wish a submarine. Oh, to this submarine, you mean? Well, this submarine, this ship was towed into dock. So it looks like it's in the dock. Now, interesting question. Donna mentions it's HIMARS time. And, we are still waiting to see what HIMARS munitions the U.S. is providing in the $500 million and the $1 billion weapons package. Are they finally going to start providing longer range missiles? Not clear. I would say doubtful, but you never know. You never know. Japan makes replaceable battery stops. I was in the Navy. Russia's Navy is a joke. Well, the thing is, to be honest, because I grew up in the Soviet era, grew up in America in the Soviet era, we always had great respect for the Russian military, right? We didn't like them, but we had great respect for them. And the Russian, everything, right? The Air Force, the Navy, the Russian Army. It still makes me wonder, and I don't know if anybody has definitively weighed in on this. Were we all just duped, or were they that good and they just fell apart at the seams after the Soviet Union was dissolved? Because we know there's a lot of corruption that happened, but there was a lot of corruption before then. It's not like they were all good, honest people in the Soviet Union. Correct. Nat Lynn says they let their Navy people drown on ships. That's exactly what they did. Is that the Kursk, I believe? The submarine accident. It sinks. Putin is on vacation. There are, was it 120 men in the Kursk, I believe? I hate sort of saying these things without checking. Hold on. I got a good memory, but still, it's good to have the real number. How close was I? 118. Hey, I'm good. 118. Yep. August 12th, 2000 in the Barents Sea. All 118 on board were killed. I want to find the exact, it was horrific. The crews of nearby ships felt the initial explosion and a second much larger explosion, but the Russian Navy did not realize that an accident had occurred and did not initiate a search for the sub for over 6 hours. The submarine's emergency rescue buoy had been intentionally disabled during an earlier mission. Oh, what kind of a moron? The earlier mission, they disabled the buoy, and it took more than 16 hours to locate the sub. Over 4 days, the Russian Navy repeatedly failed in its attempt to attach 4 different diving bells. Its response was criticized as slow and inept. Officials misled and manipulated the public and the news media and refused help from other countries. Putin initially continued his vacation at a seaside resort and only authorized the Navy to accept British and Norwegian assistance after 5 days had passed. He didn't want to take the help right away, so he said after 5 days. Of course, after 5 days, your boys do not have air and they're going to be dead. 2 days later, British and Norwegian divers finally opened a hatch to the escape trunk in the boat's flooded 9th compartment, but found no survivors. Wow. That's what I thought. Yeah, Putin stayed on vacation, absolute disaster. And honestly, we hear stories about this. You hear stories about this from Ukraine as well, about the Russians just leaving their troops behind, right? And just not picking up the bodies, which is something that we consider anathema, just anathema. But yeah, this is who they are. But there seems to be there's also just seems to be, I don't want to say a disdain, a not even caring about the troops, which is weird. Not bringing their body home because they just don't seem to care. They really do look at them as cannon fodder, I feel like, It's really strange. I mean, very strange. Anyway. All right. Let me look. What else we got? Let me look at see if you guys put any questions in the TikTok, in the Ticker Talker. We got lots of time. I got 20 minutes. We're doing. Yep. There's Midas Touch. Love the boys at Midas Touch. I consider them friends. They are very good boys, as we say in Greek. Questions. Nancy P. Oh, Nancy Pelosi. And Chinese sanctions, I didn't see what's going on. What's the point? Will they do anything? I didn't see anything about sanctions. What's going on with sanctions? Is China, I'm not sure what you mean with Chinese sanctions. If you mean lifting the ones we did for inflation, I wouldn't mind. I mean, for, the tariffs to help with inflation, I wouldn't mind seeing that. But I'm not sure what else. I think these questions look like they're from yesterday, are they not? Oh, no, these are from today. How do you think aid to Ukraine will be affected if Desantis were elected president? Interesting. Desantis is the Ron DeSantis, Republican governor of Florida, very conservative, very Trumpy. Although, ironically, he and Trump are at odds because DeSantis wants to be president and Trump wants to be president. So Trump has been very negative on DeSantis, and DeSantis, therefore, at the same time, did not seek Trump's assistance in his reelection. So it was taken as DeSantis saying, I don't need you. Everyone else bows to Donald, but I don't need you, right? DeSantis is uncomfortably Trumpy. And what I mean by that is he believes in a lot of smoke and mirrors, which I don't like. A lot of what he does policy-wise, it's bread and circus. It's chum he's throwing out for the sharks on the right, but it's not actually substantive good, and it's not good stuff. COVID, he was all in it as far as, I would say, COVID denier. Even though he didn't totally deny it, he hires a doctor who's kind of a COVID denier, who's the top doctor in the state. He did everything he could to stop people from getting vaccinated. He refused himself to even say if he got vaccinated. Then he refused to say if he got a booster. I mean, as a state leader, as the leader in the middle of COVID, I mean, you of course admit that you got the shot, right? He couldn't do it because in Republican circles, if you are trying to get Trump's voters, you can't admit you got a vaccine, right? So he goes with it. He tried to stop cruise ships from requiring passengers to be vaccinated and show proof of vaccination before they go on cruise ships, and a court struck it down. He's unfortunately, this is who he is. I have not seen comments on Ukraine, but Trump's base gets their news from Fox News, and particularly from the evening shows in Fox News, which include Tucker Carlson, who is in Putin's pocket. I mean, whether monetarily, I don't know. Whether he wants to date him, I don't know. But there's something unnatural going on in terms of Tucker Carlson and his defense of Putin, and now his defense of Orban as well in Hungary. It's this offensive autocratic fascists, and I don't know why. But that's where they're getting the news from. And I've already seen it come to me. I've seen people bring up things that they clearly learned on Fox about, Ukraine's corrupt. We shouldn't help them. What's Zelensky doing with all the money he's getting? And this kind of, you're like, where did you even get that from? Like, what's he doing? Fighting a genocide? How about you? Right. But it's, so I worried, sorry, that was a very long way of saying, I worry DeSantis may feel a need to jump on the shit on Ukraine bandwagon to win over Trump voters. Because Trump, by the way, if Trump runs, Trump is not going to be good on Ukraine. I mean, if he is, I will praise him if he is, but I don't see it happening. This guy is pro-Russia and he hates Ukraine, right? He hated it from the beginning. He thought Hillary did some deal with Ukraine to cheat him in the 2016, like some, and then he And then we all know about, I'd like you to do me a favor, though. Zelensky didn't do Trump the favor, though. So Trump will hold that personally against him. And it's Putin. Trump does what Putin wants. In cases like this, forget it. And Trump had already said after Crimea was invaded and occupied by the Russians, and it still is, Trump said Crimea was Russian. He said it's theirs. He had every right to take it. I mean, this is not, I hope I'm wrong. About Trump on this, but everything we've seen about Trump has been very bad. Olga from Ukraine. Привет. Hello, Ukrainians. We're talking about Donald Trump and the Republicans, and if they win the presidency, how they're going to be about Ukraine. I fear they are going to be bad. You are a weak liberal. I can even hear the accent when you write that, John Jones. You are a weak liberal Democrat. That wasn't even American. Literally, I could hear the accent in it. Okay. Well, actually, let me say the best part. The best part is that was a Russian talking point, and I guarantee you that was a Russian troll. Again, I do this to educate you guys for your own purposes. Get this. We are talking about Ukraine. I am talking about how some people in the Republican Party are weak on Ukraine, how they don't want to really go after Putin militarily, right? That makes you a weak liberal? I mean, it doesn't even make sense, but it also, to me, suggests this is somebody who got a talking point on a piece of paper and he's throwing it out there. Because they've done this to me before. Whenever I've gone after Russia hard like that and say we've got to go after Russia harder, they're like, just like a liberal. I'm like, no. Jeremy Corbyn might be just like a liberal. I mean, a bad liberal, but traditionally not like a liberal to say we need to go in there hard and we need to give them better weapons. Not all liberals, though. Although I wouldn't call myself a liberal anyway. I think I'm progressive on many issues. I'm certainly not. I am not what the term progressive is. Oh, my nose is itching again. I am not what the term progressive means today. The term progressive in America has been basically co-opted by the socialist movement. And they did it on purpose. And the media fell for it. And now the media literally uses the word progressive to mean the democratic socialists who are socialists. They're nice socialists, I guess, but they're socialists. So I don't know what the hell I am anymore. I don't know what I am. Well, that's true. Corbyn is a communist. Fair point. That's what I mean. As soon as I said it, I said I shouldn't go. And mind you, you all know liberal in America means left, of course, because in England it's the opposite. And, but they drive on the wrong side of the road too. So, you can't put much stock in them. Anyway, we do need to come together and stop fighting. I don't know how the hell to do it, Christy. I really don't. Honestly, COVID would have been the best freaking way for people to come together. I mean, Ukraine, we came together. Very much so. My God. I mean, I go back to my small town and other towns across America. People putting up, you Ukrainians, you can't even imagine little towns where I grew up that are, still, I would say they lean conservative versus leaning liberal. They lean conservative. Not every tree, but lots of trees had Ukrainian ribbons on them. I mean, it was amazing. Houses with Ukrainian flags up and like all across the country. Marion said that she's near Denver in a little suburb, her suburb near Denver, the same thing. I mean, it really unified us in a way. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, I think, two things. And I will be bipartisan in my concern. It's unfortunate that Biden is not the president for the moment in terms of his voice. He does not have the voice to lead us with a Churchillian view of the future. Why are we here? Why are we fighting? What does it say about America's role in the world moving forward, right? I mean, especially from Trump, right? Trump really wanted to retrench more, and have Leave their wars. Their wars are their wars. We should stop fighting them. We saw a war where it made sense for us to help fight it too. You need to put that in a larger framework for people and sell it to them. And I mean, they've already bought into it, but they haven't bought into the larger why. Simply they know in this case, these guys are bad. We can help. Let's do it. But you've got to give them this larger message, and I think almost like a very smart, well-spoken British politician would, but that's not Biden, So it's unfortunate because we need a good speaker. I did not see I read about Orban's speech. So Orban yesterday gets invited to speak at the Conservative Public Action Committee conference, which is the big annual Republican. It is the Republican conference here in America every year. They invite Viktor Orban as their premier speaker. They have been sucking up to this guy for a few years now. And the thing is, it's similar to the Trump thing. But what I mean by the Trump thing, I mean the specific Trump things like, Russia. So yeah, CPAC, Conservative Public Action Committee. Correct. Conservative Public Action Committee. And it's on Trump, Russia. I was a Republican. I grew up a Republican. I worked for a Republican in the U.S. Senate. I was his foreign affairs advisor, of all things, and I was his transportation advisor, some domestic policy issues. But I was his foreign affairs advisor. I lived and breathed how Republicans think about Russia and foreign policy. I worked on arms control. I lived and breathed how Republicans think about Russia. I changed. I'm still, now I consider myself I went left. Now I consider myself more in the middle. But I did not change how I perceive Russia strategically. Not a chance, right? For a Republican to sit there and say, and the Republican polls show it, the polls just go like this: Putin's not a threat. He's not a problem. We like him. We like Russia. Why are we fighting him? We should be worried. Who cares if he invades other places? For Republicans to say things like that is just unheard of. And for these guys to invite Orban, and the only reason they're inviting Orban is because Tucker Carlson on Fox News loves Orban, because Carlson has his own fascist leanings or his own fascist goals here, that they invited him to be the keynote speaker at the conference. And you're like, his claim to fame is the guy's a fascist, and we now know he's a white nationalist as well. Where's the quote? Let me find this. Orban, pull up the quote last week. His quote, one of his top advisors, longtime friend, quit after he, where is this? Here we go. From The Guardian. Listen to this. The quote. Hungary's far-right Prime Minister Viktor Orban has lashed out against the mixing of European and non-European races in a speech that immediately drew outrage. We Hungarians are not a mixed race, and we do not want to become a mixed race, said Orban on Saturday. He added that countries where Europeans and non-Europeans mingle were no longer nations. What do you call China? Well, China doesn't really mingle too much, but I mean, what do you mean? There's lots of countries where lots of people mingle. Australia is a place where originally European people mingle with other Asians, right? I mean, and some indigenous Asians. Orban's been making such claims for years, but these comments were couched in stark far-right terms. And everybody said it sounded like Nazi Germany. Yeah. I mean, it's... The thing is, too, let me say this, okay? This is the kind of thing where, but even Switzerland, though. The thing is, but look at Switzerland. I mean, Switzerland, you do still have the cantons, right? I mean, Italy is Italian, so to speak, right? French is francophone. I mean, you've got like the cultural identity staying the same. The thing is, I understand. He's a racist. I mean, let's get that out of the way. I understand for European. I've talked about this before, I think. As a Greek, it's weird to me to meet Greeks who aren't Greek-blooded. I find that odd. As an American, it's totally normal, right? I meet an American who looks Japanese, totally normal to me. Of course they're American. I wouldn't even think, oh, that's funny, you're American. It's like, right? You're black, you're Ethiopian, the different sort of, because the different places in Africa, totally normal. You're European. I mean, like it's Irish. It just is normal to me. Like you're Chinese American. We all look, so we've been mingling. I mean, we've been mingling for a long time in America, but in Greece and those places, they haven't been. So as a Greek, it is still very weird to me to see, like, Yanni, was it Limatokopoulos, or I can never pronounce his last name. It's great, but it's still weird. As a Greek, I'm kind of like, wow, he's like 7 feet tall and he's black and he's Greek. And his Greek is, he was raised there. His Greek is like Greek, and he's a Greek. He's a Greek like I'm an American, The blood's from the other country. You're brought up here. That's what you are. But in places like Greece, the identity, I don't want to speak for the Greek identity entirely because I don't live there, right? But the identity is tied to the ethnicity there. Whereas here in America, our American identity is not tied to the ethnicity, really. I'm very proud of being Greek American, but my Greek side doesn't make me American. My American side makes me American, but in Europe, we're ethnic. And I was in northern Greece. And the number of Serbs at the restaurant, it kind of blew me away. The restaurant was full of Serbs, and they weren't tourists. You could tell they were working there. With my mom and dad, we were like, oh my God. In southern Greece, you don't see that. In northern Greece, you do. And I'd never witnessed that before. Anyway, so I can see, let me put it this way. Europe is something that can be shocking to a European sensibility, where it's something you haven't experienced, and I think we have to be sensitive to that concept. But it's not, well, we cannot let our people mix genes. That's just, we got rid of that in 1967, although I shouldn't talk so fast, because some people have talked about trying to get rid of that law here in America too. There's a law that says it's illegal to block races from intermarrying. That it's not a law, it's a Supreme Court decision. That happened in 1967. That is questionable right now, whether that could survive. Russia shirt? This is Ukrainian shirt. What are you talking about? This is Ukrainian Vyshyvanka. It's not even close to a Russian shirt. What are you talking about, Svetlana? It's absolutely Ukrainian Vyshyvanka. 100%. No, it's not. It's from Odessa. Anyway, we'll let it go, but it's not Russian. Anyway, what else we got, guys? 7:13. Wow. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue with you guys. I know where I got the pattern from. So what else we got going, guys? Anything else? Let me look for anything else in here. I'll get another minute or two, and then we hang and do non-politics at that point. I don't think we're going to war with China. Nah. Don't worry about that. Pay attention, but I wouldn't worry about it. Let me look up this thing. I'm going to look up this thing about North Korea. This has me curious. North Korean, let's see here. North Korean troops, Russia. Okay, Russian state TV is claiming it. North Korea has offered to send 100,000 soldiers to bolster Russia's invasion in force in Ukraine, Russian state TV has claimed. The pariah state's offer of military assistance could not be immediately verified, but it was seized upon. Of course, the Russians love it. There are reports that 100,000 North Korean volunteers are prepared to come and take part in the conflict. Korochenko was notably interested in what he called the North Koreans' wealth of experience with counter-battery warfare. meaning defending against the HIMARS, or, yep. We should let them. Okay, this is from the New York Post, but it's a pretty good line. Seemingly, no consideration was given to what constitutes a volunteer force in an authoritarian state such as North Korea. Actually, my big fear would be how many of them would defect. My God, not my big fear, my hope, right? But think about that. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I would imagine Putin's going, huh? Yeah, that's what, Craig, you said the same thing, that they would, yeah, I think they would defect. John Hoover, who's over in Ukraine, says Russia's using white phosphorus again last night on civilian sites. Yeah. Elise says, my son is Navajo on dad's side. He seems fine. He's destroying the country, Elise. We'll never survive. I mean, I just, God. But again, I get it. I get it for people who historically didn't have to, didn't have that kind of mixing because their identity is that, but it's a brave new world out there. It's not the same thing that it was when growing up, That's correct. Yeah. Well, Harvey's also noting the difference, saying, I'm assuming it's the heritage of the U.S. being a nation of immigrants. Speaking of someone not from the U.S., most other people from other countries don't present their heritage country, meaning they don't talk about where their ancestors came from. I had asked, I grew up Greek. Friends in school knew I was Greek. I mean, it was very funny. Like, that was a clear part of my identity as an American born in Chicago, but I'm from a Greek family, and everybody knew I was Greek. And it was taught. I mean, it was just sort of part of my clear American identity. And as we say, hyphenated Americans, I'm Greek American, right? You're more Greek than me. You might be more Greek than me, But I had asked a French guy once, I'd asked him on where his family was from, because he didn't look French. I mean, he looked something else. And I asked him where his family was from, and it was funny. He goes, France. I mean, obviously his family wasn't from France. He was white, but he obviously wasn't from France. And I said, yeah, but like, where were your grandparents from? Oh, Poland. I said, oh, all four grandparents from Poland. I'm like, okay, that's my point. Getting that information out of him was like, right, pulling it out of him. And I asked him, I said, do you ever tell people you're Polish French, like, Polonais Français? And he was like, no. I said, does anybody do that here? He goes, no. Like, it was just like I asked him a stupid question. Whereas here, we do. I'm Greek American, you're Italian American, French or Italian American. I mean, right? Chinese American, Asian American. It's just like what we do. It's funny. Yeah. No, well, in Chicago, we ask. It's part of who you are. So you absolutely, and I do it in Ubers all the time, but because I've traveled around the world, I usually can very easily be like, oh, I've been to your country, like Mali. I've surprised the Malians a few times. I'm like, oh my God, I've been to your country. I loved it. And then they're like, oh, but we love it. People, Chicagoans, at least for me, we love if you're ethnic Chicagoan, I'm always interested in knowing someone's background, where they're from. Do they speak the language? What are you? That's exactly it. What are you was what we would say in the Midwest. That was one of them was asking, what are you? Which sounds horrible, but what are you meant, it meant your ethnicity. The other one was, what's your nationality? Harvey, you're going to love this. As an American, we would ask other Americans, what nationality are you? They'd say, oh, well, my mom's Italian, but my dad's Greek. That's what it meant, nationality. It wasn't even you all. Hell, back then, I know more than 70% of Americans didn't have passports. 20 years ago, 70% of America, or 15 years ago, 70% didn't have passports. So back then, it probably was like 80% or more. So nationality was, anyway, it's a whole other notion of identity that we have. So it is funny, but our individual families still had to deal with the concept of mixing, right? I mean, if I were straight and married a black girl, my family would accept it, but it would be very strange. I mean, taking her to the Greek events would be very interesting, right? So you still have that aspect of, right? In the ethnic families in the States, they still wanted you to marry a Greek girl, first of all. So they wanted you to keep, they did not want you mixing with the others. And it wasn't even by race. I mean, race was worse, Jewish, horrible, right? I'm giving you like the immigrant stereotype here. Didn't marry a Jew, but they really, and then if you married like a German or Irish, it was like, oh, why couldn't you find a good, I mean, she's nice, but why couldn't you find a good Greek? So there still was this notion, almost a European notion in a sense, but I mean, where we were still in our silos from the old country. Then again, it was cultural. I mean, a lot of it, ironically, it was based in bigotry, and it wasn't based in bigotry because it was the national identity and carrying on the identity here in America, keeping the Greek community strong, keeping your kids proud of their heritage. And if they're mixed, they're not going to care as much because they're French and Greek. So there was that. But as I said, if she was black or Jewish, it would have, grandma would have died. So that there was that element kicking in as well. Any case, it's fascinating stuff. Yeah, no, it's totally different. Like I said, we've been mixing for years, but it is funny, like you said, to see, like, for me, it's strange because I also switch though. When I meet Latinos who are clearly Japanese, it blows my mind. And I was at a party once with some girl, a woman here in DC. I remember when I was in graduate school, and I think she was from Peru. And she was Japanese, but our Japanese, I mean, like I'm Greek. She was Peruvian. And it just was and she was much more comfortable in Spanish. So we spoke Spanish. And I was almost having a hard time because speaking Spanish to her, I felt like I was talking to an American. And like when I talk to other Americans in a foreign language, I feel dumb and I can't do as well. Talking to a Japanese Peruvian made me feel like I was talking to an American because she was Japanese. So talk about how far we've come in America in some ways, anyway, it's so bizarre. Anywho, all right. Oh, you guys didn't get the spam tonight. Are we short on, I just saw that. Somebody missed the spam, did we or no? Well, it's gone now. Harvey. Here you go. Harvey has something else here. With the exception of people who came across during the Windrush generation, people from the Caribbean who came to the UK in the 60s. Never heard of that. People in the UK don't hold nationality as a primary thing. Yeah. Well, you're English. I mean, you hold your English nationality, but I guess the question becomes, well, the immigrants do, right? I mean, Indians do, I assume. Although the Indian kids would be fascinating now because it's just like in America. What happens there? The parents, I'm assuming, Arabs, Middle East, they're holding true to their communities, so to speak, community identity, but it's what happens with the kids because hopefully there's more mingling with the kids. I mean, first of all, you want the mingling to happen because you don't want to create ghettos of make the mistakes we made, where you create ghettos of people you don't like, they get less opportunity and it just creates a cycle, Thank you, Jinga. Inga? Oh, Inga. I'm saying Jinga. Inga. I made it myself. I got the pattern, got an iron, got one of those things, and recap. Excellent point. I will do a recap, and then we'll call it short. Amnesty controversy is growing. Amnesty International claimed that Ukraine was endangering civilians, and a lot of Ukrainians were not happy. Amnesty has been having to fight back on that. Let me see what. Oh, thanks, Marion. Oh, you are here tonight. You must have heard your ears tingle. I mentioned you earlier. Ukraine is forcing Russia into a hard choice by making Russia move troops from the far eastern regions closer to Zaporizhia and Kherson, where Ukraine is at least looking like they're going to have a big counteroffensive coming. Alexei Arestovich, a former Ukrainian intelligence. She went off again when I said the name. A former Ukrainian intelligence officer and current military blogger says that he saw 8 to 10 planes flying in the air, unbothered by the Russians, and suggesting that possibly the Russian air defense is not doing very well in the area. Bellingcat found and interviewed the suspected murderer who mutilated and then killed a Ukrainian POW, interviewed the guy. The U.S. is promising another $1 billion weapons package, including munitions for the HIMARS and missiles for the NASAMS surface-to-air missile system. In Luhansk, the province in the east, Russian militants are forcing teachers to join the army, the partisan army, in other words, the collaborationist army, to fight Ukraine. The developer of Putin's hypersonic missile was just arrested for treason. No more info on that, and I'm dying to hear what that is, because my guess is whether he leaked some information to the West or I don't know what. But treason's pretty high up there. Turkey caved to Russia on natural gas and will be paying some of its natural gas in rubles. 13 cargo ships are waiting to depart from Ukrainian ports with farm products, which is good. The Ukrainian Nuclear Energy Agency says that Russia has shelled the area near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant yet again. Oh, sister's giving me advice here. Oh, on the bottoms. Hang on a sec. Hang on. I got to see which one here. Okay, Syndicate, you're out of it. Kathy wins. Syndicate and I were having I'll show you what it is. We were having a debate about let me finish the news and I'll tell you. And then I gave the other news. U.S. employers added 528,000 jobs in July, way more than expected, which told a lot of people that a recession is not here yet, but, still got to keep an eye on it, obviously, but it's not here yet. There we go. Do we have any mods on TikTok today? Wasn't sure. And then finally, Medicare, Democrats are passing a big Medicare expansion, allowing drug price negotiation and some other things that are very good. So, yes. So the deal is, and I can show you guys and get your opinion. Syndicate wanted to get your opinion. I was like, all right. We weren't arguing, but in doing the t-shirts for my shop, which is at aravosis.com, my last name.com, and trying to basically, one of the t-shirts the school kids did was really cool. I'll show you. But it's this really neat shirt that said, a guardian angel is watching over you. And then on the back, she wrote this lovely text with her name. She's, Lisa from the 7th grade. And it's this lovely text about, thank you for keeping the peace for us. It's beautiful text. And I was like, I can't publish the shirt without the text. We thought, okay, we could put it on the back of the shirt. It's $5 more to put it just on the back of the shirt. So we're like, and mind you, 50% of the shirt's for charity. So I'd rather not cut into that. So what we did was, I was like, let's just slip the text onto the front of the shirt, right? So there were two options. Syndicate liked an option that had the text kind of in the middle. I liked it towards the bottom. I'm going to show you also, we were doing a lot of editing of, we were editing the shirts to make, let me find what I sent my sister. So this is probably this is the black version I'm going to show you. And the black version I think is very cool. And actually we've been selling more black shirts than white shirts, meaning the shirt itself, which I was very surprised. I like black shirts, but typically white shirts sell more. Black's been selling way better. So, okay, this is the first one I'm going to show you. All right, hold on. I'll do not disturb so it doesn't bother us mid thing. There we go. Oops. Okay, this is I'll say this one. This is the first one. Okay. And you see, we put the text on the bottom. All right. So you guys, we just, her text, but we put it on the bottom. I figured that's not corrupting the intent of the photo. Versus this one where the text is higher. the big text, of course. Any opinion either way? And then I'll show you one more time. That's it with the text at the bottom. And again, for you guys, this is the 1 and this is 2. All right. I'm even going to do a poll since we don't do polls enough. Polls are always fun. Let me do a quick poll here. Is it interact, I'm guessing? Poll. Okay. It's going to make me pick which is which. On TikTok, I am seeing what you guys are writing here. The first button is middle. The second button is bottom. Okay. First button, text in the middle. Second button, bottom. So start. First, so red, middle, blue, bottom. Blue bottom. Remember it that way. The blue color is bottom. That's how you'll remember. Blue bottom. And I don't want to spoil it for either side. I'll tell you what we're getting. Very cute, Nathan. Watch it. I think this only goes for a minute anyway. So interesting. Syndicate, you're getting some support. I didn't tell you which one Syndicate liked. Well, it seems to be 3. Well, that's 3-1. 3-1 for bottom is how it's ending here. Oh, last votes ending in 6 seconds. Yeah, even more. 71-20. 71-20. So it's a little more than 3-1. 3.5-1. Bottom. Everybody, there's not enough. Cynics is going to go, there wasn't a fair count. There was no way I could win this vote. Recount. So, okay, yeah, Syndicate liked it in the middle. I liked the bottom. I thought he was crazy. He thought I was crazy. So I got my sister involved. My sister, who's very much an art person, said definitely the bottom. All right, Syndicate, I gave it a fair try. No reason to be ashamed of your horrible taste. No, but I'm very surprised the black shirts have been selling more of all of these. Now, I will say with the kids' drawings, they really pop. They do pop on the black. I've got to see actually that one I don't have in a shop or anything yet that I could show you. I think I've got it in the Signal. Hold on, because Syndicate and I throw these things back and forth. Actually, yeah, here, I can show you both. So this is the black bottom that you saw. And then, oops. So that's the black bottom or the white bottom, excuse me. And oops. And that's the white middle. Forget the middle. I'll just show you. So that's the white one for the bottom. And it looks good too, but on the t-shirts, it really seems to pop. Let me see here really quick if I've got, I know I still have my screen open. This is the part of the show where we just hang out. Thus the reason we're no longer talking Ukraine. If anybody goes, why aren't you talking Ukraine? Okay. Here it is. Okay. Here it is. I can take a test photo. Just on the chance that you would prefer my version, I set up a test. Here we go. Design. Okay. You can. It's okay on white. I like it better on black. It's definitely, for example, the woman's shirt. That's the white on the woman's shirt. That's the black. I just think it's. Now, one question actually I have for you guys, which you might as well ask too. I don't know whether I should be making the picture that big or smaller. Oops, let me get back to the screen here so I can see you guys. Should I be making, so this is the black version on a shirt. Should I be making the image that large or should it be smaller on the shirt? Here's the, oops. It's a computer demonstration, but that's the computer demonstration. Just curious. Because part of me feels like the image is too large, meaning because I can shrink it, obviously, but I don't know. Okay, a lot of you like it large like it is. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. The black does look better on all of them. I mean, it depends. The one, oh, sorry, what were you guys? Let me see what these guys were saying. Smaller, perfect size, keep the size, keep it big. Yeah, okay. A lot of people, do we have any moderators today on YouTube? Oh, so okay, you got that one. Good. Okay, sorry. I just noticed the crazy people were back. Marion says large too. Okay. Because but I will say, like, for example, actually one other thing I will tell you guys, just as since I know some of you are buying the shirts, which I appreciate, the shop fools you a little. I think it makes the women's shirts, it shows the print the way the print looks on the women's shirts, and on the other shirts. What is it? Is it the white? Yeah, the women's shirts, it makes the print brighter in the picture. It makes the prints less in the other ones. Where, Nicolina, hi. No, it's okay. Let me show you an example, just so you know when you're looking at this, not to be fooled. And it's unfortunate because other people are going to get fooled too by this. Let me see this one. Okay, I mean, like this one as black. Okay, looks pretty good. I mean, the color's showing pretty bright. And then I go down to the white version. At least to me, it's hard to tell. You see, it makes it a little less bright. The white version makes it's not a white version. It's artificial, of course. They're just putting it over a graphic thing. Yeah, I see PB&J. Yeah, I may reduce it just a little bit. That's my gut. But I was gonna say, but the one that I really love and I like in white as well is this one. And yesterday, I think it was already live when I talked to you guys. I had sort of decided I was going to take this design and I was going to get rid of the white behind it. And by doing that, I really like this. I just really like what it did because it makes the stars and everything kind of hang out there in space. It just, I just like the way it kind of, and because those little things are little stars she drew, the really little things you're saying. But I like when you get rid of the white. This one's great. And this one actually, even in white, is very nice. Now, I'm showing you the woman's white where it shows it a little brighter. I mean, I'm going to buy this shirt probably in white because I don't like the other ones in white as much. This one, I don't mean to dissuade you from white, but this one I like in white. I'll show you the man's white, but the man's white, like I told you, it somehow, the preview, this will give you a perfect example. The preview mucks up the image. So look how the preview, even with those wrinkles, you don't quite notice how beautiful it is because the preview is funny. They simply took the image and put it over an image of a shirt. Well, the image being off center is an interesting question because the drawing the boy or girl made is off center. So we kind of had an interesting issue there because it's off center to start with. So if it actually is not off center, if you take into account the little hearts he's got on the side, it actually is centered, but the big image in the center is to the left. I mean, it's an interesting question. Let me show you, because you kind of get into where is this? You kind of get into the issue of, you know what I mean? Like the image was drawn off center. I mean, the image was drawn off center. So like making a t-shirt, what do you do? Anyway, I'm having a bit of I can change the next one. I can certainly change the next version of it, but I wasn't sure what to do with that, because the artist intended it to be off a bit, but you're right. You look and you go, oh, that's not centered, but Okay. What I can do very easily is I can move her little heart in a little bit, move the heart, which isn't a great change to the picture, but okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. All right, guys. Well, thank you. This is really good. This has been very helpful. Like I said, I'm very excited about the store. So I will get the other image up tonight over Syndicate's Tears. And someday, Patreon's going to get back to me. Patreon has still not gotten back to me about the store, and they've got to get back to me in order for not the store, for Patreon itself, for the Discord to go live. Patreon's got to get back to me, and they haven't gotten back to me. So I'm getting a little annoyed. In 2 days now, it's like, come on, Patreon, but I'm guessing they've got a lot of garbage that they've got to go through too. So, and now we may be stuck for the weekend, but we'll see. Anywho, well, this has been pretty good. My dog has been terrified, but she's been lying. I did give her a pill earlier. She's been lying down. So, all right, guys. Yeah, let's go. I don't want to work the voice too much, but this has been okay. I'll try to center the text. I may move one of her little hearts over or something. They're easy to move. And it's easy to do. All right. Good to see you guys. I will see them. Oh, tomorrow. That's right. Tomorrow, Saturday, 2 p.m. That's our early show for the Europeans. Our saucy European show. Ooh la la. So be there or be carré. All right, guys. All right. See you all tomorrow as well. Oh, God, they're back again. I am hoping no one is a moron enough to buy into like Bitcoin scams. Like, seriously? Jeez. What I do too, by the way, for the mods over on YouTube, I block, and then I also go and do a timeout afterwards, because then it hides the actual thing, at least on the system I'm using. So all right. This is great, guys. This was fun tonight. I think we had a good conversation. Yes, peace for Ukraine. Let's all hope peace for Ukraine's. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 p.m. New York time. Okay? Don't forget to subscribe. Especially don't forget to follow me. Follow me, please. Follow me. All right, bye, guys. See you tomorrow.